Welcome to the Tequila Time Podcast. I'm so excited to introduce to you my guest today, Ape Yacht Club member, Duncan. Hi, Duncan. How's it going?
Hey, it is going very well today. How you doing?
Amazing. I'm doing great, thank you. I've been so excited to talk to you on this podcast. I'm so excited to have you on. I've watched your journey from like the OG days last year, and I just wanted to start by thanking you for coming on and giving your time. And also, I'd like to just start by asking, like, how did you get into the Bored Ape Yacht Club? What was it like right from the beginning? What was your story?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, thank you so much for having me today. Looking forward to our chat. Yeah, I got in a little late on the Bored Ape Yacht Club, but not too late. I would say I was actually looking at them on mint day. I think I had been in the NFT space for like 2 weeks or something at that point. And honestly, I was just like, I don't get it. Like I did not get it at all. I was trying to understand. I thought the art was cool. I thought the apes were cool looking. But I was trying to understand more, kind of like the economics behind it, right? I was like, okay, so like, are 10,000 of these really gonna have any value? And like, if I'm going to, make money, then I need to find somebody who's willing to pay me more than what I paid for it. And I just didn't understand how there was gonna be that many people all that interested, to be honest with you. And so I sort of, passed on them at Mint, and I kind of spent my time being an artist in the space and was kind of just watching things unfold. And then in May of 2021, I really started noticing the type of people that were buying into the yacht club. So it was, big players in Web2, CEOs, CTOs, like, influencers, athletes, celebrities, all that. And so I was like, okay, like I want to be connected to these people. More than anything else, I didn't look at it as a money making opportunity. I certainly didn't expect all this. I don't really think the founders did either initially, but I wanted access to the network. And so I was actually really fortunate. One of the first kind of big collectors in the space who actually collected my artwork, I become friends with, and like at the time, like I didn't have like the funds on hand to get the ape, and so I was like, I reached out to him and was just like, yo, like you can totally say no to this, but like, how would you feel about like buying this ape and essentially like putting it on layaway for me for like 2 weeks? And he was like, well, like I guess like worst case scenario, I can always just sell it again. And and so he was really cool with it. He bought the ape for me, put it on layaway for 2 weeks. I promptly got him his money, and he sent me the ape, and I've sort of been holding it ever since. So that's the ape story as it goes.
That's amazing. That's probably one of the most interesting stories I've heard so far. That is incredible. And actually, it just goes to shine a light on exactly what I've been almost preaching in a way. There's something about the community of the Bored Ape Yacht Club, especially from the early days, where people were so kind, so friendly, so giving, and that just goes to show exactly what I mean. I remember lots of people giving away apes for free just to let people into the club, you know? And how amazing is it that someone helped you so early on without even knowing you, say, in real life, and was just willing to, I guess, trust you, you know, as well. I know you could have sold it and still made the money back, but it's still, I guess, a little bit of a risk because the markets are always volatile.
Yeah,
But that, yeah,
absolutely.
wow.
And like when I did it, I think in that 2 week span, the floor price had increased like 50% in that time. And he was like,
Yeah.
hey, okay, like other options, like I could just sell this now and like we could split the profits 50-50 and like go on our way, right? And I was like, no, no, like give me the monkey, like I'll take it, like thanks.
That's amazing. It's amazing. I can't even imagine. Oh, I couldn't imagine things like that happening now, especially with the floor prices that, you know, where they've risen to, even though they've dropped.
Yeah, it's
But it's
definitely a little
just
bit
so,
riskier now than it was then, for sure. And I don't know, like I'm hoping we can kind of get back to that spirit in the space a little bit. I feel
yeah.
like these past couple months, I don't know if it's really just a product of the bear market or not, but I feel like the tone has kind of shifted a little bit, and not in a great way. And I'm hoping that we can sort of find find our peace again. It'd be nice.
Yeah, for sure. I think money, ETH, whatever connects the dots to people being able to live comfortably in real life is normally something that I guess changes the way people are. I try not to let money or ETH or I guess the market dictate my happiness and my mood each day. And I think that's a really difficult thing to do in general because life costs money. People have, I guess, in real life pressures. And I definitely think there's a tone of a different note, say,
Yeah.
throughout the community. But yeah.
No, I agree, and I'm hoping we shifted away. Like I've been talking to people about it. I wrote like a really long thread the other day that I like haven't published yet because I'm a little scared too. But just that, like, I feel like there is real promise here for building community, getting people together like with similar interests, people who are like-minded, kind of finding each other in this kind of new space, opportunity to like really connect people closer with like these big brands and like celebrities and that like normally they wouldn't have access to, and then providing some sort of, additional value, access, utility, discounts on stuff, whatever that may be. Like, I feel like there's real promise for that. And it feels like, especially recently, the narrative around the space kind of has always just been about money, like even like early on. And I feel like that's both, internally in the Twitterverse and like, externally with the media and things like that are talking about, oh, these monkey JPEGs are, worth six figures or whatever it is. And that's the only narrative. And I think it's really a problem. And it kind of prohibits some people for entering the space. And I think it prohibits people from setting realistic expectations and from also being, conscientious with their money because they're thinking, well, I'm going to put $100 in and I'm going to walk away with 10,000. And then they, lose their $100 and are, really upset and hurt and don't have that money for other more important things. And so I feel like
Yeah.
there's like kind of a challenge we're facing right now, but hopefully it's just, I don't know, sort of like a transition kind of phase that we're in currently.
Yeah, I think obviously with what happened throughout Yoga Labs, this story so far, it's got a lot of attention for obvious reasons. And yes, they are probably the most unique project around. And people who got involved early enough and I guess minted or got involved with the project early enough that they could afford to be in it without worrying about the fact that they've spent whatever they did are very fortunate. I feel blessed, and I'm sure you do too, just to be in that community. It's a very unique situation to be in when nothing has really reached that level yet. But I do
No,
think there's so much opportunity as well.
I agree. I think, I consider Yuga like a one of one project, right? I don't think there's anything else like it. I honestly believe that they're going to they're going to dominate the space for like the next decade. Like in my mind, like they've sort of already won. There are going to be other projects and other businesses that are successful, but they've essentially executed like almost flawlessly, which is like shocking, especially because they're sort of like inventing it as they go along.
Yeah.
But I see the space being like anything else, right? Like, 0.1% of projects are going to succeed. It's the same in business, right? 99% of things fail, and that's going to be the same here. And like, I consider Yuga the first like real substantial like Web3 like, brand slash business that almost exists entirely in Web3. Like, they almost don't exist at all, even in Web2 or the real world, aside for some merch for the most part. And so, yeah, it's definitely interesting to see what happens, but I anticipate that, big brands that already exist in Web 2 are going to end up coming into Web 3 and, dominating for the most part because they already have, the resources, both in terms of personnel, and, and in terms of money, and just general knowledge. So, I think we'll see some success coming from the space, but I think it's going to be, small percentage, just kind of like anywhere else.
Yeah, and I guess anyone who's here right now building are the ones who are early enough to adopt everything early enough to learn and to strive for as much greatness as possible because we're early. As time goes on, yeah, Web2 companies will probably dominate like they always do because they already have that brand out there. They've already spent their six figures, I guess, in marketing over the last few decades, and they're going to be the ones who do, I guess, drive normal people in as well. So I think there'll be definitely pros and cons because the more normal people who've not yet entered the space adopt it, the better it is for the whole ecosystem. And as much as everything feels a little bit bleak now and again, especially with just the tone of the way some people tweet every day and just, hearing maybe the Fed sometimes, especially with rug pull projects and stuff, there's a variety of everything, as we know. There is something very special as well about the amount of people who just want to be in a community. They want to feel like they're a part of something. They want to be included. And Web3 does give that element that isn't really there in real life, where you can be anonymous or pseudonymous and be accepted, still be trusted just from a cartoon or, animal picture, for example. Like there's something so unique about that, because if I was in my in real life Web 2 type of past life now, because I've been immersed in Web 3 since last summer, but if I was still in that sort of realm and the way of thinking, and someone tried to add me on a social media platform and they didn't have a real name or a real human face, I would probably look at it and think, I can't trust that.
Sure.
So the fact that we've got this new way of communicating and it's still trusted and people still feel included, there's something really special about that. And I'm so excited about the possibility of everything that's being built and what's being created. I know you've been working on ether brews for a long time, and I love what you're doing, especially the fact that you designed them all individually. And how's that going, actually? How's it going?
Yeah, it's going all right. Yeah, Ether Brews has been just like an incredibly eye-opening, like kind of learning experience for me, and the team. And I'm sort of like working on a couple other pieces. Right now, I'm really focused on building kind of like a little digital creative agency to onboard some kind of Web2 companies and brands into the space. We have our first couple clients, and basically everything I do is sort of designed to feed value back to Ether Brews holders moving forward. But I don't know, like I still think we were really like ahead of our time, shockingly. Like I still don't necessarily believe that, we got the credit or recognition that we deserve, or really that, our dev Bitcoinsky deserved. He's gone on to have like tremendous success with Props Labs. I think he's one of, I've said it before and I'll say it again, the smartest, most thoughtful, kind of like humble, generous, like humans in the space. And it's also just like freaking brilliant. And so,
It's amazing.
like we, generated all the 3D data. I've gone back through and like made kind of like the production quality renders by hand, but he found a way to generate all the data and all the materials and actually mint, the 3D GLBs, straight to the chain. And so I think there's a project that's supposed to launch, I think maybe next month or end of this month, that's doing something similar. And, we launched in January. Like this is the first time I've seen anyone else do it. And they're, 10, 11 months behind us, which is absolutely crazy. But in the end, we made these kind of like ridiculous little beer cans. We built like a really genuine, honest community of real humans. Like I grossly underestimated the value of marketing in the process, but I'm really happy with the community that we built, because I feel like there's an understanding about what they bought into. We set expectations early. Everyone's really just kind of like vibrant and lively and supportive of each other. And like it's not about that money word for people. And I think that's really rare in the space right now. So I'm really, really proud of what we did there.
Yeah, I think you should definitely be proud. And the way you did it so organically, the fact that, yeah, I watched the whole sort of journey, and obviously I had my own ether brew cans too, and I love them. Yeah,
Thank
I think
you.
they're so cool.
Yeah,
I
that's
could,
the goal.
I
I
could,
said it from the beginning. Like if they put a smile on your face, like I'm happy, my job is done.
yeah, they definitely made me smile as soon as they just popped up on my screen. I was like, oh, I love them. And I could just imagine them being like a real life can, So like when I was like looking at all of the different designs that were transpiring, I was like, wow, imagine like having a real life version of this. And it was a physical. It just went through my mind. And I don't know if you've thought of that at all, but
Yeah,
I think that would be quite cool.
we have definitely been in talks recently about kind of getting our own actual ether brews made. It's funny actually because like, I like beer, but I'm not like a beer guy per se, and I'm not like, like I have, I'm an artist. Like I'm not in the beer industry. But like, once we sort of in the middle of developing the project was kind of during that time when PFPs were switching from like just being about the PFP to like everybody asking what's the utility, right? And so I
Yeah.
was like, well, I think we should lean into this beer thing because there's like an obvious utility we can provide here. But to be honest, like at the time, like I wasn't really sure how to like get there, right? Like I had big dreams, I had big ideas, I had high hopes, right? And we're still working to achieve a lot of those things. But to
Yeah.
your point, what's so cool about the ether brews is like there aren't a physical product, but since each one of our brews, every single one is, AR, VR capable, anybody can go and download a brew and like open up their camera, on their cell phone and like put it in the room right there with them. So like it is real, like it is physical, like you can interact with it, just maybe not in the sense that you can actually, drink it.
Yeah, maybe an avatar on the metaverse can drink it.
Yeah, I have this dream of like everyone running around like Decentraland or something with like silly beer cans like instead of their heads or something. So that's sort of the goal long term here.
Well, yeah, there's no ceiling in Web3. I'm sure that's definitely possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been an interesting ride so far, but I'm really excited for this next chapter. There's like a lot of moving pieces for sure, and I'm sort of just trying to like get all our ducks in a row, so to speak. And now's a good but challenging time to do that.
Yeah, but it's probably the best time where everything has calmed down enough for it to be quiet enough, and a time where you can focus on something in the background. Because I do know last summer there was so many things dropping, and obviously during a bull run, that kind of market, I've never experienced anything like it. And I'm not someone who gambles at all. In real life, I'm really careful with what
Yeah.
I earn and what I spend. And suddenly I was just, I don't know, just clicking buttons, and, it just disappeared, and then something appeared, and I,
Yeah, you're just playing around with that fake internet
oh,
money, you know?
wow. Yeah, wow. Like it was more dangerous than going to a shopping mall. It was literally I spent so much and I didn't even care. I went through a process of complete, I guess it felt like a thrill. It felt liberating. But I've I've learned that the markets are volatile, and they can go very high and then go very low.
They can for sure. And I mean, I don't even want to know what I've like spent in gas. Like there was a
Oh
time
wow.
where, 100 gwei was like common, right? And everyone's like, oh, like I guess
Mm,
this is just what it is. Um,
wow.
so yeah, that's been crazy for sure. And like really, as the market got more and more saturated, at least for me, like it became harder to pay attention to and harder to know where to invest and what was going to make you money. And so like I've almost like completely stopped investing in order to profit. Like I have spent the better part of, whatever, almost probably a year and a half now, like building as many positive relationships as I can. And like mostly when I buy things now, it's like to support the people that I've like built those relationships with. And that way there's like no expectation from either end. You know what I mean? Like I don't expect them
Yeah.
to deliver on anything. And, I don't expect to make money or anything like that. It's just to say like, yo, like I see you, like you're taking a risk just by being here and trying this out. Like I just want to support you. And so that way I can sort of feel good about my quote unquote investments, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I totally empathize. I feel like I've been really sort of thoughtful, anyway, about everything that I've sort of invested in. And I've bought a lot of, things that are nonsense, things that were never going to make it, things that were just literally just maybe cute pictures or just something random. And, I was well aware that it was gambling, and it was just me spending money that was going to wash away and I would never see it again. And I stay positive and happy because I'm very much aware that I have no expectation. So if anything ever happens in the future and something works, great. But having that sort of mindset of not expecting anything, and for it just to be, I don't know, supporting other projects, supporting your friends in the place, and like hopefully again, like you said, building connections. It's the building of relationships that's been the most valuable thing for me too. And actually the people I've met are now in my life, and I never would have been able to reach out to them ever in my life without this space. So I'm grateful for Web3 and NFTs and the culture. It's life
Yeah.
changing actually.
Absolutely. I agree. I've, talked about how like in the space that there's someone for everything, right? And whether it's kind of in your immediate circle or not, like if you need a dev or a designer or a marketing person or like just someone to bring good vibes to the community, like just reach out to your network and like you'll find someone, and that's what's so crazy here. And I know that like, like I live in the Bay Area, and like, we have like a Bay Area Apes chat that like I'm in every day, like talking to people, and like we've had a couple meetups out here, and like now like there are people who are, my wife hates when I say this, but who are my internet friends who are now my IRL friends, and we've met and hung out and had beers and had a slice of pizza and hung out. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting space, and I met all sorts of people that I wouldn't have met otherwise.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I think it's again wild that we are doing it the other way around, where we're meeting people online to then bring into real life rather than it
Yeah,
be
sounds terrifying.
it's crazy. It's like everything I've never done, Normally everything's been very organic and natural, and you meet someone, I don't know, through your work or through other people or through mutual friends or something, there's some sort of connection somewhere, and it's how you met, rather than it be, oh yeah, there's this person who calls himself, whatever it is, and
Yeah.
now we're like friends in real life, but from crypto Twitter. It's so crazy. It's like...
Yeah. And it is funny too, because like I feel like, I don't know, like not to I don't know, pull back the curtain, so to speak, or whatever, but I feel like I've met a lot of these people, and yeah, there's obviously like, a certain amount of clout that comes with being an ape, and I feel like there's a certain amount of like perceived success, like real or not, right? And then like you meet these people in real life and you're like, oh, like you're just like normal people, like just like me.
Yeah.
Right. And like there's varying levels of success in real life and in Web3. And, it's just cool to have a group of people that you vibe with and kind of like share a common interest with. And again, like I think we need to try to get back to that in the space in general, because otherwise I think we're going to end up just like kind of like disappointed with everything, right? Like with the market becoming so much more saturated, like the likelihood that this next project that you invest in is going to be the one that's going to make you a bunch of money is like getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And so
Yeah.
like I've been trying to encourage people, like pick like 2 or 3 projects that you genuinely care about, like that like you connect with on a personal level, like you actually want to take advantage of the utility, because I feel like people want utility but just as like a buzzword to like pump the floor price, like they're not actually using it. And so it's like find things that like you actually want to use and take advantage of, and like focus all your energy and time and engagement there. And I think you're going to get the most benefit, because I think if you're always chasing kind of like the next quick bag, like none of these projects are going to succeed, because the space is so small, there's not enough liquidity going around. And then like you see these booms early in projects, but then all the liquidity leaves to the next thing, right? And so it's just kind of moving around, and you're never able to really like have any sort of sustained growth. And so I'm hoping people recognize that. I don't know if they will, but that they really get involved with things that they actually care about, because maybe that's idealistic, but I think that to me is at least the promise of the space in the long term.
Yeah, that's definitely the answer for the solution, because when we did start earlier with the Bored Ape Yacht Club, I'm only referring back to this because it was the most unique time I've ever managed to connect with people on that level. There was some sort of feeling throughout the space of, and like where everyone was just hyped, but in a different way, because it wasn't about money first, because none of us ever realized it would be worth money, like it is. So we were all so unaware of what it was going to become, yet we all managed to connect to each other. Everyone early enough where you could trust that they were actually a bored ape, but not just, right click saving.
Yeah.
We were all following each other straight away. So there was no like hesitancy to start communicating and connecting. And then from that, there was just this sense throughout the whole of the Bored Ape Yacht Club community that we were all in it together and we were all having fun. We were all excited. We were creating memes and like every day in Discord or on Twitter, and we were all communicating with each other. And then we started to create real life things. Like, I remember like the skateboards, people started to put Bored Apes onto actual merchandise, and start making their own things outside of Web3. And I think all of those things, everything that happened in, all of the perfect time, that the timeline had this perfect,
trajectory.
Yes. no one told us what to do. The founders never said, go out and create this, go out and
No.
create that, use your IP and put it on a t-shirt, use your IP and put it on a mug. But people would do it on their own accord because they were excited, and they
Yeah.
loved their actual profile picture. So we never started out, this successful community and project. It happened because of everyone coming together in the community, diamond hands in. There was some
Yeah.
flipping, of course, but there was such a percentage of people who diamond handed and wanted to
Sure.
be still in this community. And yeah, that is the only way it works, is for that to be the reason. The
Yeah.
community have to want to be in it together and build on the IP together, rather than flipping for a quick few ETH.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I don't know, I feel people like lost sense of that. Like they think that the Yuga founders, again, they've executed flawlessly, but they think like the founders are the reason why people have made money. But like the community built the project. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if the community wasn't as, vibrant and vocal and united as they were, like it wouldn't have provided the opportunity for the founders to then go out and do what they've done, right? There's this very cyclical nature to the space where it's like the community builds the project and then it's up to the founders to execute. But like, again, we were part of that exclusive club, right? There was that, like there was excitement around that. But yeah, like people started taking their apes and putting them on skateboards and even putting them on stickers or whatever. And like, even still, I was talking about this in one of the Etherbrews Twitter spaces where it's like, if you go and look at like the BAYC like Twitter page, it's literally like 99% them like retweeting pictures of
Yeah.
like, holders like wearing the merch. Right? Like
Yeah.
that's it. And so it's the fact that this whole community is so united and engaged together and promoting this that like, if you go out and you wear your hoodie or you wear your shirt, like you take a picture of it, you tweet it, you tag Yuga, right? That's what that's what drives the FOMO. That's what grows the community. That's what grows the project. And that in essence is the thing that's going to make people money, right? Because people want to be a part of that club. And you can replicate it with any project. The problem is right now is that people are not staying in projects long enough in order to actually see that type of growth. They're expecting, hey, I bought into this project. Like, when are the founders going to pay me? And it just doesn't
Yeah.
really work like that. And I think, again, that's the challenge right now. And so that's why I'm hoping that people stick around and heavily engage with a couple projects that they really can make an impact in.
Yeah, I agree. And again, like you said before, we're a very small amount of people. It's a very small percentage of people who are the whole community. So we are just buying and selling from each other.
Yeah,
So
pretty much.
so yeah, it does make it a little difficult. So I also think that, I guess, bridging the gap of Web 2, bringing more normies on board, trying to find a way to allow them to trust a project and for there
Yep.
to be maybe real life utility, tied into the Web3 aspect. Because a lot of, I guess, normies are not really ready for VR technology. They're not ready to wear an ape filter on a podcast, for example. They're not ready for any of that. But they are maybe ready to say, okay, I wouldn't mind trying maybe setting up a digital wallet. I wouldn't mind, trying something that seems to be the future and buying an NFT, especially if it means maybe go to this festival or this club or this place and hang out with other people in that same community who own that same NFT. It could be anything,
Yeah.
But I think that might be the key to maybe bringing more people into the space and giving some kind of utility that's still community orientated, where it's not, for example, giving away something that costs money to do, but it may be bringing people together so that everyone can communicate and connect in real life as well.
Yeah.
So there's just lots of things that could be done, but it's about, I guess, marketing it so
Yeah.
that people, understand.
And I think we need to give people a reason to be here. And I think you use the word gambling, and largely right now, again, when it comes down to the money word, that's what a lot of this is right now. And most people, like, period, are not interested in gambling. Like, that is terrifying for most people,
Yeah.
And most people honestly they don't have the luxury of like having excess funds to be able to gamble with. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like, again, like we need to give them a reason to be here aside from money. What's something that they actually want to be a part of, that they can contribute to, that they get some sort of additional benefits or access from. And I largely think that the time is going to come when we're onboarding a lot of people into Web3, but it's only going to happen when they don't even realize that they're interacting with the blockchain, right? Like I
Yeah.
feel like even Starbucks announcing they're going to replace their rewards programs with NFTs. NFTs is like the technical term that they use, but like nobody's even going to know that's happening, right? Like when you have your Starbucks stars right now, it's like you're not thinking about what's happening on the back end. All you know is that you go into the Starbucks, you scan your phone, you get some coffee. Cool, right? So like the concepts here, like actually like not that much is changing. It's just kind of like what's going on behind the scenes that's changing. And I think that's when we're going to start seeing people onboarding into the space more, when they don't even really realize that that's what's happening.
Yeah, it'll be a very fluid transition. It'll be smooth. They'll have their hand held into it. It'll be a Web2 company they trust. Just hopefully it's not their bank.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you're
Oh.
all in on Bitcoin.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, but there's so many exciting things to come. We're at the dawn of something that's going to be the biggest thing in the history of humans. The way that life will change for everyone, whether they realize it or not. There's something huge happening right now, and we're aware, and we're here, and we're active. We are here on a podcast, pseudonymous as our ape filters. Like,
Yeah,
we
it's
are
ridiculous.
definitely early. We are definitely early.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm excited to walk around the other side with my
Oh.
ape, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. I don't know what the metaverse holds, but there's something happening, I guess.
There's something definitely happening. I could just imagine you there with your yacht.
Yeah, well, one day I'll get a yacht, maybe. Maybe I'll get my yacht.
You could definitely get one in the metaverse anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm curious. I don't know, I'm not like big on the metaverse yet. Like I don't spend a lot of time in, the sandbox or Decentraland or whatever. And I don't know that many people who do, but like I don't know, like there was like a real excitement around the other side journeys for sure. Like for the first time for me since I was in like the sixth grade, playing Diablo 2 to like date myself. But there was like, an excitement around that. But I have two younger brothers who are, I think eight and a half and 13, so they're much younger than I am. But like it's been interesting to see, especially with COVID, for them and for us, like they still go to school, they still play sports and things like that, but then they come home and they're playing Fortnite or they're playing Minecraft on the iPad. Like my one little brother will be like playing Fortnite on the TV and like FaceTiming with his friends while playing another game like on his iPad, like simultaneously. And so they're almost
Wow.
right now like spending as much time interacting with people digitally like as they are like in reality. And so we're starting to see that shift. And so maybe there is going to be significant time spent in the metaverse when we figure out, what exactly we want to do there.
Yeah, well, I think definitely we should all start thinking about it because in my idea of the future, I think every single thing will be in the metaverse, from events to businesses to, I guess, jobs to
Hmm.
bottles of water to cans of Coca-Cola to then clothing lines to places where people can get married on the blockchain and you dress your avatar up in a dress and a suit. I think absolutely everything is going to be done in the metaverse just to prove as well that it happened, because obviously on the blockchain, things will live forever. So I actually believe that not too far in the future, especially the generations to come, because they don't have much to compare to. So they've grown up with technology. A lot of us grew up without having it, to then having a little
Yeah.
bit of it, to then being, I guess, immersed in it because we need it for everything, including everything being app-based now. So I think give it a few more years, maybe not too many. And I
But
think there'll
maybe a
be
lot.
maybe a lot, but I do think there'll be a time again, maybe further into the future again, where people will wake up, they'll brush their teeth, whatever they might do in the morning, and then they'll put their VR goggles on and they'll go to work in the metaverse and
Hmm.
they'll maybe switch off now and again. But I think people will be living in there one day. And I think it'll actually be a necessary thing because I think there'll be more earning potential in the metaverse than there will be in real life. I think, bricks and mortar businesses are going to be going out of fashion because they already are, but maybe to another greater level. I think, the whole world will go through this change, especially with technology and the internet. And I think people will come to a point where to survive, they'll need to work in the metaverse, which is a sad thing, especially when you compare how maybe you grew up going outside, using your bike, going, doing sports and activities a lot more than what we see children growing up doing now. I remember I was outside all the time. I was like this muddy kid, always like, I don't know, I guess lost in the woods, and I'd build tree houses and I don't know, play with animals. Like I had a completely different upbringing to what I see happening now, and it's a crazy thing, but I think everything's going to be in the metaverse. And I think we just need to be aware that it is going to happen. And the better we can build now to almost create standard, and the more successful we'll be, because we'll be expecting the change and be ready for it, rather than push it to the side, ignore that it's happening, and then time goes past much quicker than we realize. Every year just flies by. It's like time evaporates, and then suddenly we're all in there, so I think it's important to be aware that it's definitely happening. And there's some, I guess, companies who are tech-based, who are very far ahead of the curve, and ones who are from Web 2 coming into Web 3, and they've got a lot of backing and money funding behind them, and they will be pushing for it because they'll make a lot of money from it. So I think there'll be certain individuals who will want this to happen really fast,
I agree. I mean, people are definitely pushing for it, and I see it being sort of this like universal like interactivity and connectivity, whether you're at home, either in VR or even on your computer, right? Like you still have access to all the brands, all the products, any types of events or services, like in this kind of metaverse world. You can order products to your house like through the metaverse, but also like when you're out in the real world, there's kind of like this metaverse like AR like layer that kind of like sits on top of everything, so you have the option to like have this connected experience when you're still out in the real world that's kind of like connected and personalized to you. So it's sort of like wherever you go, whether you're at home or you're out, you're kind of connected to this like additional layer of reality that's going to exist. And so, it's going to be wild, I think. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it won't be, but we're anticipating it's going to be weird.
Yeah, I think it's going to be wild. I think it's going to be extremely wild. I've never been like one for technology, yet even like I'm excited in a way because I'm able to connect with so many people globally. And before joining anything, before buying an NFT, before setting up a digital wallet, my life was really laid back. I was basically retired young by choice, even though I get bored quite easy. So I'm always working on something, even though I was able to retire, which was amazing. What I'm trying to get at is I was basically not into technology at all. Yet suddenly I am doing this. And since I had my Ape filter last summer, I have used it every single day, and I've got hardly any photos of my actual self for the last year. Like it is just all, tequila, and and I actually love it. I absolutely love adopting this lifestyle of being able to connect globally. Because what I will rewind back to is when I was tired on the beach and just chilling in paradise, yoga twice a day, doing nothing really, bare minimal stuff. The only thing I was doing, I was online and trying to connect globally to people, just to make friends worldwide. It was like one of my goals, just to make friends worldwide. And if I turned up at any country, then I'd be able to be like, oh, hey, friends, finally meet you in real life, that kind of thing. So it was very weird then when this Bored Ape Yacht Club thing happened, and suddenly you're meeting all these people online, and like, whoa, it was like my goal before I become a Bored Ape. And now it's happening. And the fact that we can sort of be, again, anonymous, pseudonymous, speak like this very openly, just as our ape filters, I think is incredible. Because when could this actually happen? Like this is a first, and it's insane because my goal is being achieved, and through a network of people that I really do want to get to know better. The whole reason for this podcast was to get to know all of my ape fam better, because I feel like I've followed people since the beginning and never had a conversation. It's crazy.
Yeah, we just mostly, type on Twitter in our DM groups more than actually having like real conversations. But Yeah, I mean, it is cool, and there's definitely like I don't know, like a vetting that has already happened just by way of, having, the PFP or the avatar or whatever that, if you talk to someone or you're in a different city and you meet someone who's, wearing, an ape t-shirt, you're like, oh, like I know I can, engage with this person and have a conversation. Like I know that we kind of like speak the same language, so to
Yeah.
speak. And so, yeah, it's definitely, interesting to see what happens. Yeah, and I'm definitely happy to have been a part of it, and excited and curious for what comes next. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be amazing. I think there's so many things that are gonna happen that we won't expect because this whole ride has been wild so far. It's already been insane. Things have already transpired and happened that I never would have in my life thought that I would go through. If I could have chosen a time in my life to be alive, it would be like right now. It is insane. It's amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I
It's
definitely
wild.
feel, yeah, I feel, I don't know, blessed is the right word, but happy to be,
Yeah.
existing right now. It's definitely one of the most interesting times in human history. But I wonder if at any point in human history you could always say that, since progress is sort of always happening. Anyway, not to get existential and weird about it.
We could go deep. I don't mind. There's no rules.
Uh, but yeah,
Oh.
it's there's definitely a shift happening, and I'm kind of curious what's going to bring people here, and what they're going to connect with, and want to be a part of. Really, I saw like an article that basically said brands are really interested in NFTs, and consumers couldn't care less. And I thought that was like a really interesting kind of quote, and I was just like, all right, like there's definitely some truth to that. And so what is going to shift this space in a positive direction that's going to actually get people interested in being here? There's obviously benefits to being in the space. We're on to something, but
Yeah.
we sort of have to figure out what that something is, and what people are really going to connect with.
Yeah, we're at the crisp of everything. We're right at the beginning. We're before the beginning. We are like the front row audience of something that's happening, but we're so aware of it and it's massive that we're trying to sort of almost become a part of the creation as well. So, but we are frontline audience. And
Yeah.
when you see news and headlines talk about this stuff, a lot of the quotes are not really always that accurate. It's just because it's not mass adopted yet. Anyone can say anything and they can sound right because there is elements that they are correct. It's just because it's not being, I guess, it's not immersed enough in the small amount of people who are throughout the community right now. Because I know anyone still here in a bear market, and even though it's not a lot of us, it's still a lot of us. It's a strange thing with the
Yeah.
numbers, but there are enough people that it demonstrates to me that it's something truly special. Where if people outside of the Web3 community did come into it and were welcomed and they saw benefit just through connection, because when COVID and lockdowns did happen, people felt lonely. People felt isolated. They felt like they had no one. Lots of people suffered depression and they were just drinking too much and eating too much. That lots of things happened from that year or two. And it was a crazy thing for the whole world. And I'm glad we're the other side of it. But a lot of people felt alone. And people like connection. People like to feel like they're a part of something. They like to feel they have a source of trust. Some
Mm.
people don't even have very good families around them, or they're
Yep.
abused, or they go through things that are tragic and they just need someone who's not judgmental or too close to them. So there's something so special about having friends the other side of the world on the internet compared to sometimes real life people who really do damage more than good. And I think if there was a way to reach those people in real life that was not in a way that was sold to them, but
Hmm.
more really just genuine. So really we need maybe advocates, maybe advocates of Web3 who are quite maybe, I don't know,
Yeah.
in real life, I don't know, either famous or just very well known, influential, just to almost, but not to pump their bags and not to make ETH and not to flip anything. Because so far I've seen lots of influencers just trying to pump their own bags and get rich quick. That doesn't work. And that's what's given the bad sort of taste in people's mouths. I think
Yeah.
it really does need to be genuine. And I think if it was genuine and if it was genuinely to bring people together, I think that's what keeps people here. And that's what gets us through a bear market for one. And secondly, I think that's what would bring normal people on board. There needs to be some sort of trust in the middle.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, the community as a whole, like we're the biggest advocates and ambassadors, right? Like again, I think that's what the BAYC community has done so well, like advocating and just spreading awareness about the project and doing it in a positive manner. And I think like we forget that like each of us as individuals is like a reflection of the space as a whole. And so when people on the outside see scams or rug pulls or just like any sort of like weird competitiveness or aggression or
Hmm.
negativity. And like, not saying that like, it has to be sunshine and butterflies like all the freaking time. Like, that's not reality. But it feels like there's, like definitely, just some unpleasantness that happens here. And I think people just need to remember that they are, the ambassadors of this space. And we always talk about building and onboarding new people. Everybody talks about it, but like, if people are gonna, from the outside looking in, are gonna see that happening, like they're gonna stay away. Like, even sometimes when I'm here, I'm like, I don't want to be a part of that thing that's going on over there, And so we just have to remember that, like, yeah, we are being watched, and we're all a reflection of the space as a whole, and so we, it's sort of our duty to be the best ambassadors that we kind of can be.
Yeah, I agree. I really do agree. And again, even just with not just this podcast, but anyone right now who's in the space, who's building something that will last forever. So any type of video, any type of, I guess you do your long threads, which are super informative, any kind of information that's going to be there kind of forever and not deleted is always a source of value so that anyone can then go and just research. And I think the more we can put out there, the more content, the more visibility that, again, people will be able to trust over time if it's there long enough and we keep on and on and on, keep adding value. I think that's invaluable because there's no books yet. Like there's books, don't get me wrong, but there's no literature that's on this note, on this subject. It's more, regarding the ETH currency or the blockchain technology, or
Yeah.
it's not really about what I'm trying to get to here. When I mention the value we're giving, I mean, for example, the storytelling, understanding how people got into the space in the first place, understanding the highs and lows, understanding that we've all been rugged at some point, understanding that we're all just human and we're all trying to understand it and we're all trying to live through it to gain experience. When people realize that even every Bored Ape is a normal human being, completely normal. We're not
Yeah.
super rich, super successful in this yacht club and we're all, cliquey and just, ape fam. I love my ape community, but at the bottom line of it, we are just very normal people. And if people understand that, then even things like, for example, this podcast, or like when others do spaces or long threads to give valuable information, all of that content will add up to great value as long as people can find it. Because that's another problem, is that if you're not following anyone, the algorithm doesn't really show you Web3 people, So again, it's about being seen, it's about marketing. It's about, I guess, putting the content in front of people so that they can then go and reach the source.
Yeah, it's huge, and like we always say, we're still early, right? Which means we're all still sort of figuring out what this is, how to produce content that makes sense. We're all still creating it right now
Yeah.
as best we can. But I do think it's important to put it out there as much as possible. I think we live in this sort of like value add society right now, especially with social media, where it's like you go on TikTok and it's like, oh, like can I watch a 30-second clip of somebody teaching me like a new skill that I like didn't know I needed, right? Or like improving this part of my day or whatever, right? And they're
Life
offering that
hacks.
value for free, right? And so I think that's
Yeah.
sort of the mentality we need to adopt here. Like we need to approach everything from like a value add perspective. What can we offer people for free to get them engaged, and onboarded, so to speak, and we can worry about the rest later.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think trying to build and onboard and give value for free is definitely the answer, Like I feel that is the one thing that's been missing is free. Just not just that words, complimentary.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's been missing.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think, we have the free mint projects and, things like that, and they're okay, but I think, yeah, we could still do a better job of identifying that value. But then on the flip side, if there is value and access and utility being offered, like, I have yet to see that the community genuinely really wants to take advantage of it for the most part. And so I think whether we're starting a project or a business in hopes of adding value, or whether we're community members, like, we need to at least take advantage of that value and use it, rather than just using it as a means to more means, I guess.
Yeah, I agree for sure. Yeah, because even the free mints, I feel like because they're normally pumped very early and then people sort of leave others holding the bags, then the community's gone. It's like the whole idea of it is a lot of the time for the founders to make money, mostly. And for some of the people who are aware that's going to happen, maybe they're in the alpha groups, then they make some quick ETH. So yeah, it's about, I guess, being aware enough that you need to research deeper than just seeing what's for free, and then hoping that it's just a good, strong community or development team, project founders. And I guess researching everyone is hard. It's a difficult thing.
Yeah, especially when we all look like this.
You look good though. I'm really liking your ape filter. I'm liking
Hey,
it.
thanks, you too.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was really, really wonderful chatting with you today, getting to know you a little bit better. I feel like we probably could have had this conversation for like 3 more hours, and I'm
Yeah.
sure we will. So, yeah, I appreciate you
Yeah.
having me here. Happy to come back, anytime and just, shoot the shit, so to speak.
Awesome. Yeah, you're welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show and again, get to know you better on a deeper level. So now if we ever meet in real life event, I'll be like, oh, hey, Duncan. Yeah, you've been on the podcast. And it's like a warm hello.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll be like, "Who are you? I don't recognize you without your monkey face."
I'll be like, well, I got blue hair and I'll be like, tequila.
That'll do it. That'll be the dead giveaway.
Oh, we're gonna
We're
make
gonna
it.
make it.
Let's
Fucking go.
Tequila.
Tequila!
Love it, fam. Love it. And see you back on Twitter.
Absolutely. Thank you again. We'll talk soon.
Amazing. Amazing. Take care.